Greetings, everyone. So, welcome to the first episode of Thomas Deep Dive. This is a show where I take a thorough look at each season. So, how is it going to work, you ask? Well, I'm going to cover each character, well, not every character. The ones that are good, or the ones that had the good years, the bad years, and the one. Wait, no. Wait a minute. So, how this is going to work is that first off, I am going to cover the characters that I think are significant. Then I will talk about everything I like and dislike about this season, and then I'll give my rating. So, we'll have to start from the ground up and take a look at what season 1 has to offer. Let's dive. So, we are going to go through number by number, like the order of the number of the engine stuff. So, let's get started. Let's start out with Thomas and Gordon. Thomas and Gordon both had a great year. Honestly, the best characters that had the great year. I can't tell you which one's the best. They're both equal. They're both tied up for the best. Honestly, Thomas is a cheeky child, and Gordon is the big brother that wants to teach Thomas a lesson. That's literally it. Honestly, this is just really funny to see. Well, not really that funny, but, yeah. Oh, wait, I also forgot to mention that I will be talking about my best and worst episode. I don't think I'll be talking about my okay episode, I don't really know. My opinions happen to change on them sometime. Like, most of the time, honestly. But, yes. Thomas and Gordon had the best year. James had a pretty good year, while he and his dynamic with Thomas, which is obviously introduced in the episode Thomas and the Breakdown Train. Well, yeah, and then it continues on later into further seasons. It later carried over to season 8, well, the hit era, and they love playing with Thomas and James quite a bit. And we obviously learn that James doesn't like to pull trucks. Huh. That's a nice thing we get to learn about him. But yeah, James had a pretty amazing year. Not the best year, but he stars in the best episode possible. But I'll get to that. Percy, honestly, on the other hand, got the worst year in my opinion. He only gets one episode, well, maybe 2 or 3, I don't know. Where, well, in the episode Percy runs away, we see that Percy is just sitting at Wellsworth doing nothing. And that's just kind of odd. But yeah, this one's pretty much a nothing episode in which Gordon just, this is just for Percy to almost get ran over by Gordon or something. I have really no idea. But overall, this is really a nothing and crap episode. And the worst part of this episode is that Percy goes over the hill and ends up at Lower Sudbury. How? How does that even work? He should end up at Marin, not Lower Sudbury. But we all have figured out the consistency of this episode, so yeah. Percy went on a dumb line. Literally, not lying. We all figured that out. Didn't. Alright, we've talked about the cast of characters, and now let's get into what I like. So, what I like about this season is that how British this season feels. I mean, Thomas has always looked and felt British, like, duh. But yeah, season 1 doesn't, actually, no. Season 1 doesn't really feel that British all to me. It just kind of looks more like Like, when I look at this season, I think United States or something. And, like, yeah. I mean, honestly, this is just kind of jarring, to be honest. Okay, I'm just talking about something I dislike. We're talking about the things I like, not dislike. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not perfect. But, yes. Honestly, yeah. So, what's the first thing I like? Trying to think from the top of the head. Okay, so what I like is that I really like that it's the beginning of the show. I really love how beginning this season feels. Like, yeah. I mean, honestly, I really love how beginning it feels. Honestly, I genuinely love it. And as the show goes on, I mean, as the show goes on, other characters get focus. Like, pretty much all the main seven get pretty much all the focus. But, yeah, there you go. Another thing I like about this show are the sets. The sets to me are really interesting. We get introduced to many sets, like Knapford Station after all. So, yeah, that's another thing I like. The third thing I like about this show, well, not the show, this season is that there are on, is that okay, let me rephrase that. Another thing I like about this show is the crashes. I mean, crashes weren't really that violent in season 1. They were more violent in season 2 and 5. Yes, and I genuinely love it. But they were much more quieter in this season 2. Just same carried over to season 7. I don't mean to dwell on this, but it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But there is one violent crash that I really like. It's in the episode Dirty Object. Another James episode. Like, when's the last time James has had another episode? Like, gosh, episode 10? It's been like it's been like 12 episodes. It's been like 12 episodes after. Like, seriously, that's a while, but James did make occasional appearances before his violent crash. That being, he crashed into some tar wagon. Jesus Christ. I love this episode. Now, the only thing I dislike about this season is that the visuals aren't really that appealing, and the sets look kind of flat. Like Gordon's Hill, for example. It's just trees and grass and like water in the background. It's just kind of flat. Like, yeah. But honestly, I really dislike the visuals in here. Like the screening, like, yeah. It's just kind of 60s-ish. I know I'm not really a 60s guy or like an 80s guy, but I'm pretty much definitely a 90s guy. Pretty much. But yeah, I don't like the screening in here. I can't blame the creators. I don't blame the creators for making this visual. Some sets are pretty amazing, but some sets look kind of flat. Like Gordon's Hill, for example, as I said earlier. But honestly, that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say about my positives and negatives about this. Now, let's move on to the episodes themselves, shall we? Okay, honestly, I think the best episode of this season, to no one's surprise, honestly, I have to say my favorite is Dirty Objects. Like I said before, I really love this episode because of the insane crash sequence into the tower tankers that James has. Honestly, I really love it, honest to God. The runner-up would be Off the Rails. Honestly, I have to say, I really love this episode as well. Honestly, these two episodes are only the favorites of mine because they're so memorable. Honestly, Off the Rails is the one I mostly remember. Like, you think I'm joking? I mean, honestly, Gordon's fire was slow to start, so Edward had to get him onto the turntable to get him facing the right way. I won't go, grumbled Gordon. Gordon didn't know. Yeah, whatever. But honestly, I can remember almost every single piece of dialogue, and it's really etched into my brain. Yeah, honestly, this episode is, again, etched into my brain. The worst episode, in my opinion, is Thomas Goes Fishing. Okay, honestly, I really think this episode is a one I can say is bad. Honestly, it's just factually bad. Honestly. Honest to God, I am not lying. But seriously, I don't really like this one. I wouldn't say it's terrible, in my opinion. It's a bad episode, yes, but it's not terrible. I mean, there's only one thing I really like. It's Thomas's character. Thomas's character is totally right. But what I don't like, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I mean, Thomas being in character, I am a-okay with that. But what I am not okay with is that the drivers are being kind of fools. The reason why being is that they didn't check the bucket for the fish. Like, seriously, the bucket is leaking. I mean, the fish can't fit through there. Like, dude, drivers, your brains are mixed up. Check the bucket for crying out loud. Seriously. I'm sorry about that blooper there. I didn't mean to do that. But honestly, this is a really bad episode, per se. I really think it's bad. No question. Honestly, the worst episode of season one. The runner-up would be Thomas and the Guard. Honestly, this episode is just kinda nothing, to be honest. Thomas just forgets the conductor and just leaves, and then they apologize, and then the end. That's literally it. It's honestly just a nothing episode. Like, yeah. Honestly, kind of not it's not bad or anything. I mean, I do like its episode for having Thomas in character, just like Thomas Goes Fishing. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, yeah, if Thomas was perfect all the time, it would just be boring. It would just be flat out boring, honestly. But yeah, this is the runner up for worst episode, in my opinion. The rating I would give season 1 is a 7.5 out of 10. And the word I would use to describe it is solid. Season 1 is solid for its consistency of the characters and the episode. Most of them. Honestly, most of the characters are in character, and not particular one is out of character. Well, for the exception of Toby. I don't count it as out of character. I mean, that's just him being the old grandpa and just being teasing, and 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 just him teasing James is just a funny joke. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't consider that out of character, but it's just that Toby is telling a joke because he's like a grandfather figure, even though he and Thomas are in the same age. Like, yeah, that's weird. but it depends on what type of character they are. Like if they're a grandpa figure, a brother figure, or a baby figure, or whatever figure character of an engine you think. But yes, that's all I have for today. This is Tom Prod signing off. Goodbye.